Raj Goodman podcast. Today I have a great friend actually of mine who's I've known for many, many, many years. I can't even remember how back we go, but if I was to guess, I would say about 26 to 28 years. Is that right, Chetak?
I think so. I think 1994, 5 ish is when I sort of came to the same school. But I knew you a little bit before that because we had, I think, yeah, it's closer to almost 30 years maybe.
Jeez, shows our age, doesn't it?
Yeah, 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 yeah. But
Fantastic.
I'm
Well,
yeah. I'm happy that we are all doing well, even after that 30 years. I'm happy to be here. This is fantastic.
fantastic. Well, let me get right into it. So let me welcome a good friend of mine, Tilak Sirsat, who has, as I mentioned, over 30 years or so. Chetak, you've obviously done a lot of different things, but tell us who's Chetak? What have you been up to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think right after high school, that's where we were together. We parted ways. I went to came to US after soon after that. So it's been almost, gosh, 20 24 years now that I've been in the US. Obviously, came from my education. Was always intrigued by computer science and math and stuff like that. That was my always fall back to those kind of problems, and that interests me. So I continued to learn computer science in a university here. I went to Purdue, did my bachelor's, master's, and then sort of wanted to venture into corporate life. Started my career in Motorola for a bit as a software engineer for a year or so. And then majority of my career, I've been actually been at Microsoft for the past 14, 15 years in my career. Worked in different pockets of the company, from like back end to the front end stuff, namely Active Directory, Windows. I was part of Windows product team. Did some engineering work there. Windows Phone, if you remember that little thing with the tiles, that was my team actually. So worked on that, and then I shifted gears a little bit as I was getting more into engineering, getting very deep into writing code, technology, product. So I was sort of missing more of a breadth, and so I went back to school actually. So did a part-time MBA in business technology, and so got myself an MBA from University of Washington here, just across the lake, and then switched gears to sort of product management, program management, technical program and product management. Had a couple of gigs in Microsoft again, in commerce, and lastly was Azure VMware Solution, another product. So I really liked it, and then I wanted to continue. So the last couple of years, actually, I jumped ship, and now I'm over at AWS in Amazon, and I lead their technical program management for a product that's called API Gateway. And so I lead all the region build stuff for API Gateway, which is again it's a product within AWS. It's highly used. It's front facing, sort of like as any customer would like. They will take that product and build their front facing applications. They'll use API Gateway. So we get a lot of heat. And a lot of inputs, and it's at scale. AWS, like even Netflix, runs on API Gateway. There's a lot of stuff that we support, and so I manage that team from a technical program management standpoint. And so, yeah, that's what, it's been a fascinating journey. I think I am molding, and as you know, as we get into our career, we sort of pick and choose what we like to do, go deeper, go that way. And so it's been a great journey so far, and still liking it. Over in Pacific Northwest region is where I stay and live. So this is it's Seattle. So we have a lot of cloud headquarters, so to speak. A lot of talent around here to do with cloud. You got the AWS headquartered, you got Azure, you've got GCP, which is the Google one. They've opened a new, headquarters, so to speak, in Seattle. So a lot of cloud technology stuff happens around here, and so enjoying that journey.
I mean, it's a fascinating journey from programming right through to product management. Obviously, you going back to school, and many of us folks, we sort of studied computer science sort of majors. We never stayed in that. We kind of jumped ship really quickly, and you obviously pursued on with that. What was the reason why you felt like that was is a connection there for you to remain and grow in that programming space?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, so I was always intrigued with math problems. I remember I wasn't too good in school. I always had, I could not beat my best friend. His name is Akash. You know him well too. Yeah, we would always compare our grade sheet, and he would always, have an edge over me. And then finally, that 12th standard board exams, I beat him. I still joke around with him, but I think that story sort of jives through. Where I am too. It's just complex problems, solving using technology to solve problems, and there's this element of joy when you get to the answer in a most efficient manner, which is all what computer science is about, right? So can you solve the problem? B, what is the best way to solve the problem where you have the least resources applied, the best way to get there. And so it was always about that. So if you look at any computer science book, that's how I guess humans will just try to get better and better and better, right, at things. And so using technology, using the latest like algorithms or stuff like that, I think those had always had a liking to that area. And so one happened, one after the other kept happening. Like I came in, and then the opportunity, which not many people do get in corporate world. The corporate world is like a world where you have to mold to what it is there. But I was fortunate to be presented with problems to go solve, and then that was just like a natural thing for me to keep on going and doing it. And I started getting better at it and started exploring other things. And so um, yeah, I mean, I think I consider myself quite fortunate where I've made choices on my own that led me to this point, rather than a forced mechanism where this isn't working out, or the company says do something else, and you just which I see in many ways with my other colleagues and things like that. So I think it's just a matter of interest, and the opportunity led me to this point. So yeah.
Super exciting. And obviously, you chose the path of cloud. You went to
Mm.
Motorola to cloud. Now, obviously, very cloud heavy. Obviously, you said Windows as well. Why cloud? Where do you see cloud going with the emergence of AI and quantum? Who knows where that might take us in the future?
Yeah. So the cloud, that's an interesting. So if I look at my journey, and it started with enterprise product. I went through Windows Phone era where we tried to like dominate and win iPhone, but we just were too late for the game. We had a great product, but I think the strategy wasn't there. Um, as I kept going, there I just wanted to see what's next, sort of thing. And then I found cloud to be the great. Honestly, it was more of an experiment for me. This was right around the time when I got myself an MBA. So I was going pretty deep with engineering, and I was into reliability, performance, this kind of infrastructure, even of like Windows Phone, for example. But so I was interested in the infrastructure places. So what got me interesting was just at the time, I think it was maybe 2012 ish, and little bit before that, uh, where cloud started to take on, and then there was like a wave of like, you got to be there, like this is the next thing. Obviously now with AI and other things, it's shifting gears. But back in the day, that was a thing, and I wanted to jump on that. So that was a thing that I wanted to do and try it out. I knew I liked infrastructure, but I don't know if I like cloud, because cloud's a big thing. It addresses different different solutions for specific problems. Did I have an affinity towards that? Probably not. I took a gamble. I wanted to try it out, and I got there, and I started to like it, and I just kept going at it, and so that was sort of my rationale on why I wanted to jump onto the cloud.
That's really interesting. Obviously, when it comes to like cloud has been a game changer for many companies. It has been taking the on-prem hosting and all the
Yep.
pain in that, taking all out and be able to create scalable applications across different enterprises. It doesn't matter who you are today, the cloud is where it's at. And I used to be in telecom industry for some time, and now there's also a big focus on Open RAN, which is also run on, a lot of
Mm.
AWS, for example. I don't want to go into that because that's very technical in nature. But from a from somebody who's done done MBA and is an engineer by training as well, where do you see the value of cloud in today's enterprises and in the future? Why should they be so still focused on cloud, for example?
Right, right, right. So yeah, that's an interesting question, and I think the best way to answer this is sort of what cloud offers that today companies would have to spin up or have their own department or focused. So and it comes down really scale. Like so, what happens here is now you let's take an example. Netflix. I'm just making this up, but Netflix, right? Um, Great content providers. They have a lot of people come there just to watch movies, entertainment, and they're focused on that, laser focused on, Raj likes this, so I'm going to promote this for him, and he's going to watch and stuff. They are very what we call as business focused, and they're very good at that. Now, for them to scale at that level, right? So we're talking about millions of RPS or requests that come to them. For them to just scale and to provide a good customer experience, they have to have a huge amount of resources, people put to support their infrastructure behind the scenes. Like, how do we just scale this, and just by nature of physics, resources run out of capacity. As you keep on adding more load to it, it will die out. So now, to be able to efficiently serve the public, you need to have a team that supports all of this. So people started getting away from, like, this is where the emergence of cloud sort of came in and said, okay, well, we'll outsource all of this stuff. You just pay a fraction, and all of this is sort of managed for you. We'll figure it out. And so the main problems were when you start to do this infrastructure management by yourself, you deal with problems that I call these the five sort of pillars. You deal with problems of reliability, right? So reliability is basically something has to be working. Like, your service has to be working. If it goes down, your reliability drops. Bad. There is a cost optimization where there is essentially, for doing this, you have to spend a lot of money. Like, why not give it to someone else? How do you optimize that cost, reduce operational costs, resource allocations, automation, things like that? Third is operational excellence. So this is where you have like predictive analytics of, like, proactively managing your and optimizing your service, right? So this has to work in a certain way. You have reliable, you have monitoring, you have other things, diagnostics, to be able to diagnose what's going on. And then we have this performance efficiencies, which is the fourth pillar, which is really, as you increase the load, you maybe, Game of Thrones just came out, right? And then everyone wants to see it at that time, so you'd expect a buttload of resources to be available right there. Otherwise, and then it's going. So it's really the timing of where it is. How do you efficiently sort of manage your performance. And then lastly, everyone's very close with security, right? Security breach, data is there, there's sovereignty issues, there are attacks all the time. Like, it's very easy for me. If you have an endpoint, I'll just bombarded with requests, and now your endpoint's down, you can't serve other traffic. So secure. So all of these five things are super important in a cloud provider. Everyone, if you go to AWS, you go to Azure, you go to everyone, these are five fundamental things that the cloud provider provides. By providing this well, it offloads all of the stuff that a Netflix infrastructure team would have to do it themselves. So they said, okay, well, I'm just going to do this. It is very important where I see things going as scale becomes a big like, scale is super important. Everything's just going to scale. For you to scale and maintain that same sort of customer experience, the cloud providers are still going to be there to provide you that service. And there are different levels of services, right? So there's completely managed, like here's $100, go manage it completely. There's another model where I'll give you $50, but let me manage some part of it, and you do a 50. There's like a $10 version of it where it's like, what, just give me the bare metal and I will do everything, and you just own the electricity bill, something like that nature. So there are different models of these that exist today, but really comes down to those five fundamental things, or pillars, I call it, that cloud providers provide, mainly reliability, cost efficiency, operations excellence, performance, security, that will continue to exist even as we keep innovating into different technologies. Like, someone has to be doing this, and that someone is the cloud. And so I see that still maintaining. Obviously, these are like sort of knobs where you go play with these pillars. You say, I want to increase security, so I'm going to dial up the knob, or increase, or I don't need reliability as much because I have a lot of redundancy. I'm going to decrease the knob. Now I pay a little bit less. So these you can keep playing around, and there'll be more and more features that the cloud providers will provide to customers, where you can now sort of mix and match, or play a la carte, so to speak. But and so that innovation will continue to exist. I don't see it going away.
That's really interesting, Felix. Thank you for sharing that. Obviously, you worked at Microsoft. You've seen the innovation in the market. There's Microsoft and Google has been there for a very long time. Then in comes AWS, and they steal away that opportunity of cloud. And I know so many startups who are on AWS. AWS goes down whenever it used to go down in the past. All these startups to go down as well. So what do you believe has caused that growth for AWS and its dominance in the cloud market compared to anybody else in the space who've been around for decades, and obviously they have their infrastructure as well?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I have to be very thoughtful when I answer this, because both as an employee of a company and in how I've worked with others. So it all comes down to strength. Actually, it's actually more than that. It's strength. I think strength, time to market, or time to come to market, is sort of two things that I feel are super critical here. Now, like, if I take an example of Windows Phone, right? Great product, amazing product. Like, if if you used it, you really loved it. Fun, like, it was buttery smooth. The tiles were live. Like, you could interact with the tiles. No one had that. Like, iPhone didn't have that. Android, obviously not. But the product was launched a little bit too late, and there's a whole story around why it didn't pick up and stuff like that. Application ecosystem, what the direction of the company wanted, how long we hung on to the old Windows phone, old Windows thing. So that leads to let me talk about the time to market. I think that's important. The time to market is super important because when you launch something that you get into, you target a market segment, And I think AWS did a great job targeting sort of the non-enterprise segment. They had a very open ecosystem of like Linux and things like that, where Windows or Microsoft were more sort of Windows geared. Like, hey, let me get all the servers to be in Windows. The industry is like moving away from Windows. They are more focused on enterprise. The time for them to ship was a little bit slower. AWS was much more quicker and faster. Like when I compare both of these, it's different now where things have like gotten back to par. But if I compare this back in the day, you remember this Windows 95, Windows 98, and back in the day we shipped what we called as boxed software. So you get a CD-ROM, it's in the box. The manufacturer puts
Definitely
the
ages us
software in.
again, doesn't it? It tells us how old we really are.
Yes, that's right. The dot matrix printer is what reminds me. It's always funny, but it's from there to now. You don't see that. You don't see that. You see Windows being shipped as updates. So it's like, what are we at now? 11 or 12, whatever. I think 11. So usually like Windows 10 and Windows 10 point whatever, whatever. And so these are incremental updates, more service model. Other companies like AWS and all, they were already there. They were doing it much quicker, faster. Like Amazon in general was doing this, and AWS just happens to be part of Amazon. And so they were, again, going fast in the market, shipping faster, targeting less non-enterprise uh, customers. So they have a good position there. While Microsoft has good position with security, more enterprise stuff, now they can bundle with like, hey, you're already doing Windows licensing. Here's another thing. So these are all strategy to get there. But again, it's not my specialty of how and when it came. But I think it's just the time to the market and really the strong position that you had. Oracle, for example, right now also a big player in the cloud. Their cloud products called OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Everyone who's using Oracle DB, they are their that's their target segment, because hey, you're only using Oracle DB. For you to now come to OCI, here's some bundle deal. Here's some other things. Here's how flexible it can work. Here's how it's like a peanut butter jelly. They go together. So it's a very different segment to go target. So each player has, so as a new customer comes to the market, I would first look at like, who I am, how much money do I have, where can I go, what is the flexibility I have, how easy can I, the technology that I have, where is it. All of that stuff comes into play before I make a decision. So it's just like buying a shoes, right? Do you like Nike, do you like Adidas, do they have that pump, do they not, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense as well. One thing which I know from the point of view of even someone like small like us, for instance, because we also do some work in the development side, is having redundancies and scaling to multiple regions. One thing which AWS does really well is you can have multiple regions from the get-go, redundancies, speed, for instance, from a technologist as well as somebody in, I guess, in the enterprise side of things, where you look at both, you can wear both hats. Where do you see that, for instance, and what are the strategies in scaling enterprise? Do you think that there's an opportunity for or there's a requirement for enterprise to be scaling up, and if they want to do that, how to do that with cloud?
Yeah. So yeah, excellent question again. Excellent question again. Now, so it's a very that goes to the differences in the services model and back in the day we had this software shipped in a CD-ROM kind of thing, where I just ship it to you and you run it wherever you want. But services model is that service. You are the customer of that service. You again, going back to Netflix. You're sitting in Bangkok. You want to run a movie or something. Let's say there was no you are basically calling a service, right? So you go to online, you say Netflix.com, whatever, you hit something, and so irrespective of being an enterprise or not, it's you are expecting like you are expecting some service to be provided to you. In the case of Netflix, like being able to stream a movie of your choice, and that streaming is great, and it's not like lagging every 5 seconds. You get this, oh, wait, it's rendering. Oh, here's the next scene. So there's some certain expectations that you as a customer have. Now, if you what and you're basically paying for a service, so there's some expectation that you have. If it's free, it's a different expectation, but you're paying for that expectation, right? So that means for you or a cloud provider to provide, we need to provide, or an enterprise or Netflix needs to provide a better experience to you. And the way they do it is through these, what is called as multiple regions scaling. And so the strategy around there are how cloud. I'll talk to you from a cloud provider standpoint. I'll talk to you from Netflix provider standpoint. From a cloud provider, Netflix comes to me and says, "Hey, my customer in Bangkok needs this streaming thing. For me to do it, you better put up a data center in Bangkok or somewhere in, I guess, Southeast Asia region, and have that service available for me so that I can watch this movie." And so cloud providers, from a cloud provider standpoint, my job is now to expand to different regions. This is exactly what I do at AWS. I expand to different regions. This year we expanded to 8 different regions. And when I say expand, AWS expands that. They create a data center, they put wires, networking, blah, blah, blah. And then I go build my product, which is API Gateway. Similarly, someone else will bring their own product, and then at the end of it, that data center will have all the AWS products, and then we launch that region. So Netflix will come and just say, "Okay, now I can build on top of that." So I do region build in AWS now. So from a cloud provider standpoint, I'm going to have expand to regions, and this is a problem that's called as proximity problem. So the proximity problem is basically, I will, it's nothing stopping me to put a data center in Alaska or Antarctica. Problem is there's not many people there, so I want to put it in a strategic location. So there's a whole strategy of where to put that that goes behind the scenes. This is behind my area. To all I get to know is, hey, we're creating a new region. It's in Jakarta, and this is the timeline. Go build your stuff. There's a whole thing that goes behind the scenes with local authorities, all that stuff. So once that is sort of done, flipping the coin to Netflix. Netflix will say, "Okay, well, great. Jakarta is coming up next year. Raj can now stream that movie, no problem." So they are expecting to launch that feature in that region. So in general, we are governed by the speed of light, right? So if you start to stream something from really far away, from Seattle to Bangkok, speed of light, it's constant. You just can't. We haven't figured out how to go faster there. It will take a longer time. So you're better off like streaming this content from a closer by region, which is why proximity is important. It leverages what is called as localized data center to improve the latency and user experience, right? So in general, some of the strategies we try to do this, not being too technical, but we use caches, we use content delivery networks, these kind of things that help in these. But really, the closer you are, the closer the customer is to the data center where that data center is serving you, is very important. It's super important for chat applications too. I remember I was working for a customer for AWS again. They were using AWS. They came to me and they said, "Hey, we need WebSockets." It's one of those WebSockets it's one of the protocols that you use for chat applications, bidirectional. So when you type in something, then you can type back to me. There's no connection that is created each time. So this is because each time a connection is created, it's expensive, and usually it's a request response. Like I request something, you give me, and then connection is gone. Then I have to do again. For WebSockets, is an established connection, so it goes back and forth. So they needed to create a chat application, and it was not available in Dubai, and so I had to spend some cycles to get that available for that customer in Dubai. Again, goes back to proximity. There are other things that you can do to leverage, but let's just say that those one strategy is, the closer you are, the better it is. The second one I'll really talk about briefly will be scalable architectural design, right? So now, if you talk to people like old school, they'd have this huge, we wrote programs in our computer science. There's this huge monolithic thing. Like one happens, the other happens, the other happens, the other happens. So as you expand, imagine this being like a huge monolithic software, but doesn't scale. You can't maintain that too good. If something breaks, you have the whole team come in. So we break away from that model to what's called as more microservices. Like each of them is like a component by itself, right? So think of this as a car. So if the I don't know, spark plug is not working, there's a team for that. If the coolant's not working, there's a team for that. If the cylinders are not working, these are all micro pieces that you can take out and put back in, change the piece, that kind of stuff. You can also scale in and out, like as microservices. Each team can be like, you know what, I need to put some more resources, scale out, innovate faster, or better ownership. Like each person has his own ownership, and then this is a separation of logic, right? So because now there is no dependency, there's no like, here's this huge thing, I'm going to change the logic within the thing, but it doesn't impact anyone else. I don't have to tell anyone else. Faster business logic, things like that. So using scalable architecture design is critical for like scaling when we have multiple regions. So that's another thing that is important. Another, I think, a non-technical thing that is important here also, it's a nuance, is optimizing what's called as data sovereignty and security through this cloud service, regional cloud service, right? So each region has this very specific compliance needs. So, for example, if the data is uh, if you have a data center in China, you can't expect the data to go, or customer data to go outside China. So we create our own partitions, like cloud providers who have their own partitions. So in generally, for redundancy, you have a region. A region is a data center, right? It's a big building, and then there's a bunch of servers. There's inside each server or close by region, you will have AZs, which is availability zones. What that is it's meant exactly for this sort of disaster stuff, where or one of the it's actually connected to a different power grid. So there are three. Think of this as three regions. One region has three AZs. Each AZ has its own power source. So if something happens to a power source, the other two can still serve traffic. That's one region. And then we have partitions, completely different partitions where regions cannot talk to each other. This is where the China region comes. So again, going back to the non-technical side of things, is the data sovereignty / security policy, region-specific compliance, things that come into play here, which also drives the strategy of multi-cloud. Like I can't just create a service, a multi-region. Sorry, I can't just create a region, and I can't just expand as a customer to one region that has very strict compliance needs. And they do have a lot of these things. Even UK has those rules. Yeah, and then lastly, I think lastly, a lot of customers actually, and this is an important one, cross-regional teams, right? So now if you have multiple regions, some of the strategies, that's great. You have many regions. Now you're serving traffic from many regions as an enterprise customer, because these customers will also have their own customers. And so what happens here is they're very region specific. You have like language is a problem. I used to work for this was back in Azure. There was a Spanish bank that was interested to onboard to Azure, and they were working closely with us. But we had a team in Spain because the culture is different. They would meet for drinks. They would sign a deal. They would do some things. Like coming to me directly would be like, yeah, I don't understand. First of all, this isn't night time. It's like 5 o'clock here, blah, 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 blah. So having a cross-regional team that manages localized customers support effectively is yet another strategy that has been used by a lot of enterprise customers as they scale to multiple regions. But yeah, it drives through, in a nutshell, it's really the business logic and the tech that's there. And you balance these two out to sort of have this strategy. Does that make sense?
I mean, it's phenomenal, Jay, like that the amount of work which goes not only in, building these technologies, but to maintain them, to grow them, to have strategies in place, to have redundancies, growth opportunities, different kind of frameworks from governmental perspective and non-governmental stuff as well. No wonder, people do just choose to use a provider like AWS or Azure, for example, and say, I can't be bothered to use this kind of, build this infrastructure for myself as a company. I focus on my main gig and allow the experts to take that on. This has been a great chat, Chetak. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Where can people find more about Chetak Sirsat? Where can we look you
Yeah,
up
I mean,
if we have to?
yeah, I mean, I don't have a page or I think the best way is connect with me through LinkedIn. Happy to share that link. It's just linkedin.com/Chetak Sirsat, my whole name. And then that's it. You should be able to find me. But I'm sure, I'll send you a link to where, you can post in the description and things like that. Happy to connect and answer more questions.
That'll be great.
Who have more questions on cloud. I'm always fascinated about cloud. I mean, I do other things also, but this is part of it. I'm fascinated about. I also have a telescope these days. Now I got into space viewing stuff, so which is kind of interesting. So I take a telescope and just stargaze a little bit. When I learn enough, I will. You should have me back again.
100%, 100%. Love to know more about what's out there beyond planet Earth and maybe the Milky Way. Who knows, right? So,
Okay.
yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. Thanks, Tilak, for your time today. Really appreciate it. Look forward to having you hopefully in the future as well, and maybe to catch up after a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. This was fun. Thank you so much for having me.